What's up, NIO family? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the overall market, and also talk about some big news that came out involving the US and China, and what's happening with NIO's setup. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 25 in total. Deposit $5,000 and you're guaranteed 60 free stocks. The offer ends very soon at the end of July, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So as far as NIO is going, we're looking a little bit weak right now. We did see a slight red day. We're down about 0.83%. Not the best of news so far, and it's not really a surprise since we've been continuing to downtrend for quite a while. But despite that, I just want to say that as time goes on, we're going to be listening to see what happens with some new updates and what's going on with these Chinese negotiations. Now, for NIO, we are looking weak, technically speaking, as we're below our key EMAs. And we do have this potential downtrend that's still being respected as we're making lower highs. So it could be another retest of that 3.4 area if this continues. And we have to try to get back above like 3.89 to turn bullish. So we'll see how this ends up going. Now, as far as NIO goes, we have an underweight rating, at least so far, from Barclays, which is not the best of news. And then the price price ratio is falling as we're currently losing some strength. So for now, yes, we're kind of weak. Earnings were not amazing. We didn't have the best of margins, but I do have hope for the future that they will improve as we get a lot more sales during the second half of this year. Now, just keep in mind that this is going to be a marathon, not a sprint. So there is still some downside risk looking at our setups. Despite that, the ES6 is getting a lot of attention with NAMI and a very, very awesome looking, the awesome looking design and such, especially as it's going to be very popular in China. And I do think there's going to be a lot of European expansion plans moving forward. But right now, NIO is in a very critical place because of what's going on in China with the current, the pain we're actually seeing, not to mention with what's going on, at least when it comes to their overall politics. So I just wanted to bring that up, maybe not go into specific details, but just talk about that. There was some news that came out that China's exports to the US fell 35%, as there's a lot of political tensions right now affecting both sides. The overall exports actually did rise 4.8%, but the exports particularly, to the US are down 35%. Now, what helped the market hold up was the fact that we have many officials from Trump's team who are speaking with Chinese representatives, and we're going to see negotiations continue going into tomorrow if that leads to anything big. So please keep that in mind. President Trump made this announcement last week, and that's what's once again helping this market. But I do want to give you guys a warning about that. When it comes to Elon Musk and President Trump, the two of them have been seeing the tensions cooling off a little bit because President Trump is now saying he's open to speaking with Elon, and they want to, he's going to be very careful with what he does with his Tesla. So he's not going to just dump his Tesla now. He's just saying that he's going to wait and see how it goes. Besides that, for Monday, we have wholesale inventories and the consumer inflationary expectations that came out. Inflationary expectations went down a bit, which is quite good. Tomorrow we have very minor data, just some business optimism reports. But then on Wednesday we have the CPI report, which is going to be more important. On Thursday we have PPI data, and then Friday we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report. So keep all of that in mind. That's going to be very key. The fear and greed index is currently at greed, so we'll see if this shifts or not. Momentum's at fear. We're going to see how that ends up looking. And then the put to call option ratio is also kind of dipping right now as we're at greed, so keep that in mind. The VIX is also at a neutral phase. Finally, there's not really much going on right now. When it comes to our earnings, there's not really a whole lot that's changing. We just have very, very minor earnings. But tomorrow we do have GameStop. So as far as NIO is going, we're making lower highs here. We need to get back above at least 3.8 to bounce. If we can't do that, we're going to be at risk of dipping back down towards 3.5 or even back down to 3.4. So we'll just have to see how that goes. On top of this, when it comes to SPY, although we're technically on an uptrend, I want to be very careful because when you zoom out and look at the 4-hour time frame, it is possible we climb a little bit higher. We go for like 602 to 604, but I don't think that it's too smart to just buy very, very crazily high at these high levels yet, because there might be a pullback coming because of this triple bearish divergence and this rising wedge that's developing on SPY. If we lose 595, we're looking for this gap fill to 592, then maybe a retest of these lows over here. If we get a rejection, for now, we're holding up, but we have to be very careful as we have CPI and PPI coming out in the later days, not to mention FOMC next week. So there's this very, very clear looking rising wedge on SPY. So please keep that in mind. That could affect how we end up moving. We could go a little higher tomorrow. We could still kind of shuffle in the low 600s, but there's going to be a risk of big downside if we end up losing 595 in the upcoming days / a week from now. On the QQQ, we're technically bullish. We could be going for that 532 targets, but be careful. We also have a triple bearish divergence on it. And if we end up losing this blue trend line around this 527 area, we're looking for a dip back down to 522. Russell 2000 is looking bullish, making higher highs and higher lows. As long as we don't lose 210, we're favoring 215. But keep in mind, there's also this rising wedge-like structure that could be developing. And then if we get a rejection off 215, we could turn back down. When it comes to ES, we have this cup and handle-like structure. We're looking for 6,025 and 6,050 as our targets. We might be climbing a bit higher towards those, but there is a triple bearish divergence. And if this fails us, we could turn back down below 59.60. So could we climb higher? Yeah, we could go a little bit higher. It's possible, but I'd be very careful because of these bearish divergences. Same thing with NQ. We could go a little bit higher, closer to 22,000, but be careful. There's also that triple bearish divergence and a divergence between this and ES, which could lead to some downside. Bitcoin could be going for 110,000, but keep in mind between 110 and 112,000, we do like to reject. That could also change the way in which this ends up moving. Tesla, however, is very bullish after some good news came out involving the robotaxi. We could be looking for an attempt for 322 very soon, as long as we're above 314. For Nvda, we're looking decent. We have a nice topping structure. Now, it's going to be very tough. If we break 144, we're bullish, but if we lose 141, we could turn back down to 137. We're in the middle with this bearish divergence, so keep that in mind. In terms of Aapl, we're also consolidating right here. We need to break past 206 to be bullish. If we lose 198, we're turning back down. We're still technically in the middle. For Coinbase is also making lower highs here, as you guys could tell. I want to see us break past 262 to be more bullish. And if we end up losing 250, we're going to be turning back down. This kind of looks like an inverse cup and handle, so be a little bit careful with this, or even like a head and shoulders. So we need to hold above 262.5 to remain bullish. I do think we could be pushing towards that, and we'll see if you reject or not. Amazon's looking bullish, looking for 220 plus as our potential target as we go a little bit higher. 700 has some tough resistance, so we'll see if that breaks or not. If not, we could be dipping back down to 685. For Google, we're looking for 178 to 180, and we'll see if it rejects or not. And then for Microsoft, we have this resistance near 472.5, and we'll see if you reject back down to 467. So keep that in mind as time goes on. The VIX is dipping. It could be dipping a little bit. It likes to base near the 16 area, but keep in mind there's a falling wedge, and this might get a breakout to turn back up to fill that gap. That could be a bearish sign for the markets. So I'd be very careful in the 600s, the low 600s, as there could be a downside move coming. For NIO, we're making lower highs, so there's going to be a risk of us dipping as well. Unless we get back above like 3.8, we're favoring a 3.5 retest. And if it doesn't hold, we're looking for 3.4. So please keep that in mind. Anyways, that's it for this one. I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a really good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next video. Until then, I wish you all lots of peace, and I just want to remind you, NIO is weak for now. Might be some downside coming, but what's going to matter is the long-term fundamentals as we start to see deliveries increase. William Lee Ben was talking about how they have very high expectations for the second half of this year, and also for the second quarter. We have very, very strong deliveries numbers for the expectations. So hopefully we get a very, very strong June and we make a big, big comeback. So thank you for listening. Have a good one and peace out.